Hi everybody, it's Christina. I'm just going to give everybody a moment to come on in and get the notification that I am live. So, oh my gosh, we are wrapping up the 12 days of Christmas today. I can't believe how fast this event went this time. Oh my gosh. Like the first week it was kind of like, oh my gosh, we have a lot to look forward to. And then the last week was just like gone. I don't even know where it went. Hi Anna, good to see you. Can you guys let me know if you can hear and see me okay? Let me know, and let me know so I can make sure that I'm seeing comments too, because Facebook is kind of funky sometimes. All right, so I'm all right. Oh, thank you. You're so sweet, Anna. I've been really working on I got some new office furniture and stuff. Okay, so I've got that pinned. Now, let me know in the comments below, if I pin this, does it obscure your ability to read the comment section? Because that's kind of where I'm at right now. You know what? Let's unpin that for now, and then I'll pin it again when everybody starts coming in so they can grab it. This is actually going to be a workshop that you're probably going to want to have a pen and paper for. I know most of my workshops, I say you don't really need to write anything down, but honestly, this is one you're probably going to want to take very seriously, and you'll probably want to go ahead and write everything down. So it looks like we have some people coming in. Good to see everybody. It's not showing me who's here quite yet. Let me mute Facebook and see what I can do here. Oh, hi, Susie. Good to see you. Good to see you. Hi, Susan. Good to see you. Okay, people are starting to get the notification I'm here. So first, I just really honestly wanted to say, oh my gosh, thank you so much to everybody who made this event possible. I mean, we had so many great workshops. So let me know in the comments below which workshops that you loved the most. Try to pick, like, your top maybe 2 or 3. I know it's kind of hard because they were all really good, but I want to know what workshops did you like the most? Hi, Latanya. Good to see you. Good to see you. Okay, I'm going to open this up. It didn't give you any problems, but I'm on a laptop. Oh, yeah, yeah. Okay, so let me open this up real quick. Excuse me while I get myself situated here. Okay, I think that's going to be a lot better so I can actually see comments. And just special thank you, especially to everybody who participated. We had, I don't mind sharing this with you guys, but we had double the signups that we did last year. So, I mean, every single little bit helps. I know a lot of you have been sharing the, posts and the event and things like that with people on your friends list. I know a lot of you messaged me and said that you sent the event out to your newsletter, and I'm just so grateful because with your help, it's like a little bit of help goes a really, really, really long way, and we were able to welcome in like around 20 to 30 new members into our group just through this event alone. So that's awesome. I mean, that's 20 to 30, I don't know the exact number, but that's a lot of new people to kind of welcome in and get to know and make new friends. And that's always what this group is really about, is about making friends, connecting with people. Anna says she really liked mine, Rachel's, and Marissa's so far. I love them all. Yeah, I love Victoria's workshop. Me too. Victoria's workshop was amazing. And I'll share something really quickly with you about Victoria's workshop. I thought, honestly, Victoria's workshop was like, for me, where I am in my like business and evolution and spiritual practice, I really felt like Victoria's workshop was like really hitting home for me. And I'll tell you a funny story very briefly while we're waiting for more people to come, is that earlier this year, I really wanted to buy myself something nice. So I ended up buying myself a set of Michael Kors purses. I got the hot pink version. I kid you not, I have been so scared to take that purse anywhere. Like, it literally just sits on top of my fireplace on like a mantle, and I just look at it and I don't use it because I'm so scared to like, get it dirty or get some pen marks in it or, get the bottom dirty or something like that. And I was like, you know what? I work freaking hard for my money, and I went through all this trouble to like be brave enough to actually buy myself something nice. why is it sitting on top of my fireplace? Why am I having such problems? Like, utilizing this in my daily life, you know? And so that's what I really got out of Victoria's is I'm after that workshop, I moved all of my credit cards, everything over to that wallet, and it's now not in my bedroom anymore. It's now on, I have a mud room in my living room where it has like a little bench, you know, where you can put your shoes. So I have my purse sitting there. So that's going to be my main purse that I'm using, and that I probably wouldn't have been brave enough to actually do that if it wasn't for Victoria's workshop. Hi Mario, good to see you, good to see you. I love Victoria's. I didn't have enough time to watch all the others. How long will they all be available? Great question. We're going to go ahead and leave up the workshops until at least the end of the year. I've asked everybody very nicely if they could just leave the workshops up until the 31st to give everybody an extra week to get through everything. And then after the 31st, I imagine most people are actually going to be probably keeping their workshops in the group, so that way that it's, you know, there as a lead magnet for them, and they can, you know, potentially meet new clients and things like that, which is one of the benefits of, you know, participating in the mentorship collaborations that we do. And then after that, they can kind of, you know, decide if they want to take it down. But I think majority of people are actually going to be keeping it up. So, hi Maria, good to see you. Good to see you. Okay, so I'm going to post this. Let's go ahead and get started because I have quite a bit to talk about today. Here is this link that's going to take you to a checklist. I would really love for you, if you can, to grab that and to have that with you. There's no opt-in or anything. It just goes straight to the checklist and you can download it right there. If you're on mobile, you can just listen and you can download it later. But if you have the opportunity and you're not driving or something like that, and you can always watch the replay and write things down that you miss, but I do recommend having some paper and a pen, because today you're probably really going to want to take notes. All right. Hi, Jen. Good to see you. Good to see you. So what are we talking about today? We're talking about client contracts, and we're talking about client contracts especially because I really want to get you prepared for 2019. I really want to make sure, we have so many of you that are trying to get off the hotlines right now. We just had 3 new enrollments in the mentorship program over this last week, and so we have a lot of you who are trying to figure out, like, you know, what you actually need in terms of your business when you start getting off the lines, or when you start cutting your line hours down and you start trying to get your own clients, okay? And so, you know, there are some things that you will need starting up. Do you have to have these things right away? No, but honestly, you should make it a goal to have these things in mind as your intention, as these little, you know, this little checklist I've given you to kind of check off as you get these things in place, especially if you're going to be seeing your own one-on-one clients. If you have a website, this is where all of that information really should be posted. And then if you use PayPal or any other type of third-party payment processors, you really need to be utilizing that terms and conditions box on the invoices and making sure. So what I do, if you go to my website, you can see, like, at the bottom footer bar, I have some like privacy policy, terms and conditions, Facebook page and group participation disclaimers, and there's some other things in there too that I'm going to be adding very shortly to get myself ready for 2019. But anyways, all of this information should be posted clearly on your website. Some people have asked me before, Christina, do I need a website? And my answer has been, you know, not really. You don't really need a website in today's age. Having the mandatory reason of having a website, you know, it kind of like is maybe like 5-10 years ago at this point. And not only that, but your website is kind of optional in terms of, like, you know, having you know, a place where people can actually go to buy your services. We have new things now, you know, we have where we can monetize Facebook, we have Facebook payments, we have all of these different ways. It's no longer just like PayPal and a website, you know, that was like 10 years ago. Now we have options, we have a lot of options, right? And so before, you know, I kind of said, yeah, you don't really need a website, but if you don't buy your own website, you should at least invest in like a free WordPress blog or something like that, or you know, some type of free Wix site, or what are some other ones? Oh gosh, not Wix, but shoot, What is that other one? Does anybody know what the other one is? I can't remember what it is. Oh, thank you, Jen. Hi, Tanya. It's not Wix. What is it? It's the other one. It's not Zazzle or Wazzle. It's some name like that. Anyways, I can get that for you. Don't worry about it. But I would invest in some sort of free version of a website. Weebly. Thank you, Susan. It's not Wazzle or Zazzle. It's Weebly. It's one of those weird, crazy names. Thank you. Thank you, Susan. I appreciate you. Squarespace, yes. I don't know if Squarespace actually offers free plans. Do they offer free plans? Blogger is another good one. Thank you, Maria. That's another really, really good one. Okay, so invest, sign up for something like that because you need to have some sort of way that you can post your terms and conditions, your privacy policy, and all of the things that we're going to talk about today. You need to be able to hyperlink those into your invoices. So that way that you have your back covered when it comes to like chargebacks, refunds, cancellations, and things like that. Okay, so even if you don't want to invest in like a whole website or run a website, you should still sign up for one of these free website places so that you can make pages that are specifically for hosting your terms and conditions, privacy policies, blah, blah, blah. Okay. All right, so let's get into it. Any questions about anything I've said thus far? I'll take a coffee break. By the way, look at my new coffee mug. Isn't it the cutest freaking thing ever? I just got it in. I ordered it like a month ago on a pre-order. It was a limited edition run. And I knew as soon as I was going to post it on social media and start using it, that you guys were going to want one. I did message the person who sold it to me. She has not replied back to me, and she doesn't have it up for sale in her shop. So I'm waiting, and I told her, look, this is something that, my clients, my audience is really going to want because it's adorable. It's a little cauldron. And so I'm hopefully going to hear back from her, and then I'll get you guys the link as soon as I know that she's going to have some or there's some in stock. I'll send the link out so you guys can get one. I knew Susie was going to want one. I was thinking Rachel's probably going to want one too. Yeah, they're adorable. And it's printed on both sides, so it doesn't matter if you're a righty or a lefty. You can see the text. Okay. So I'm going to run through this checklist with you, and I'm going to talk about some situations where maybe I've had problems or situations that have occurred that have been negative for me and why I feel that you really, really need these contracts. But first, we're going to play a game. Susan wants one. That's super cute, yeah. Hi, Elia? How do you pronounce your name? I have Maria wants one too. Okay, we're going to play a game really quickly. I'm going to ask you 3 questions. And it's going to be true or false. And I want you to type in the comments below whether you think that the answer is true or false. Okay? If you've played trivia with me before, you probably know what I'm doing here. Okay, first question. True or false? Client contracts are ironclad. True or false? Client contracts are ironclad. Second question. Small businesses don't need contracts. Contracts are only for big businesses and corporations. True or false? False. False. Yes. So first question. Very good. Everybody's on to my antics. I can't get my shenanigans. Everybody's on to it. Client contracts are ironclad. False. Small businesses don't need contracts. Only big businesses need contracts. False. Okay, we have some different answers. Good to know. Good to know, because this is stuff that you really do need to know. These are some of the myths that are out there about, client contracts. Third question. If I have client contracts, I don't need to post them in my invoices. I just need to host them on my website. Or I don't need to make them publicly available. I just need to post them on my website, and that's good enough. True or false? False, right? Yeah. Okay, so all of the answers are false, and I'm going to talk about that here in just a moment. So the first question is, client contracts are ironclad. Actually, they're not. Client contracts, all they really do is they prevent the two parties from having to go to court, where a judge will decide on behalf of who's right and who's wrong in the situation. So client contracts are a buffer. They're a first line of defense between you and the client, and they're not ironclad. And I mean, yeah, you have to go to court and actually like prove that this person signed it, but ultimately that decision, whether they're going to side with the client or with you, no matter like what is on the piece of paper that the client signed, it has to be judged as reasonable, right? Has to be judged as reasonable, that the person was of their right sound in mind when they entered into the contract with you. So contracts are just a buffer. And let's be honest, nobody really wants to go to court, right? Nobody wants to go to court. But in some cases, you may have to. But if you have client contracts, like I said, they kind of act as like that first line of defense, where the client decides like they still could take you to court and sue you, or small claims court or something like that. But, you know, is it going to be worth the money in the time, knowing that they signed a contract with you, right? So unfortunately, client contracts aren't ironclad, but they do provide, you know, a lot of protection and a lot of persuasion to not go to court with certain people. Hi, Pamela. Good to see you. Good to see you. So the second question was, do small businesses don't need client contracts? Only big businesses need client contracts. Nope, that's false. Any type of business needs a client contract. If you are selling something, whether it's a product or a service, you definitely need some sort of terms and conditions. Otherwise, you're going to leave yourself vulnerable to chargebacks, cancellations, refunds, people abusing your intellectual property. For example, I'll give you, if you're like a product, how does that work, you know? Okay, let's say you put together a tarot deck, right? And you sold your tarot deck and you have it copyrighted and you have the name trademarked. Now, if you don't have some type of client agreement also on top of that, yes, you could go to, you know, court over the copyright and the trademark. But what if you sell your tarot deck and you don't have it in your terms and conditions that they can't use your deck in their promotional materials, or they can't take pictures of your deck, send it off to a printer, make 500 copies and try to sell it, or take your images, modify them and try to sell it and pass it off as their own. So we still need client contracts even for products. Hi, Pamela. You only want to go to court if you know that you're going to win. That's exactly right. Nobody wants, because it's expensive. It takes a lot of time. You might have to travel, especially because most of us work internationally, you know. Susie says, I just started my one-on-one client work and I had to make a client agreement and it saved my butt. Yeah, for sure. Hi, Caitlin. Good to see you. Good to see you. Okay, and then the other one is, now with the third question is, I don't need to input my terms and conditions, privacy policy, all of my contracts into the invoices, as long as I have it on my website. And that is not true, because especially now with the new GDPR regulations, which I'm going to touch on that just very briefly today. There's a whole like 5-hour training on it in the mentorship program, so I'm not going to repeat myself. If you're very interested in that, I suggest that you enroll, or if you are in the course and you haven't gotten there yet, just go over to, I think it's I have it in module 17, I think, but I can look and see where it is and tag you if I need to. But especially with the new GDPR regulations, is that the main thing with the GDPR regulations is that the privacy policy and your terms and conditions and things like that have to be clearly posted where the client can see that before they make the decision to invest in your product or service, right? So just having it on your website is not going to be enough. So what I do personally, whenever I make an invoice, is I will grab the links from my pages and I will say, put it into my invoice, and I'll say, you can read our full terms and conditions here. You can read our full privacy policy here. If you go to the Make Tour Your Business sales page, which is pinned in the comment the title section of this training, you can kind of see how I have it there, where I talk about like cancellations and refunds and privacy policy, terms and conditions, participation disclaimers, you know, that sort of thing. Pamela says, should probably put it everywhere. Literally, you should post it anywhere and everywhere that you can. If you look in my groups in the Make Sure Your Business course group or the Heart Centered group, you can actually see in the pinned post, I actually have links to the participation disclaimers, privacy policy, terms and conditions, things like that. So you can literally never put it too many places, and it kind of gets repetitive over time. But after you do this for a while, you know, you just, what I do is I just open up Google Drive. I have a document on Google Drive. It's called TOC's links or something like that. And I just have it on. I can just copy it and paste it no matter where I go, no matter where I post, okay? Okay, so let's go through this. The first thing that you're going to, and not all of these are going to be actual client contracts, but these are also going to be different considerations that you're going to want to put into your contracts, or you're going to want to make available and posted in a very, very, very public place, okay? So the very first thing is clearly post office hours or office days. That is super important because most of us as entrepreneurs, we work from home, and when you work from home, it can feel like you're working all the time, right? That's kind of the benefit of working from home, is that, yeah, in most cases the hours are kind of weird, but the benefit is that you're, at home and you're with your family, hopefully, and you can take breaks, and, you can set up your own schedule. So, if weekends are bad for you and you want to take weekends off and be with your family, you can do that. But it's, one thing I hear all the time when I get new clients come in is, I have all these people messaging me all the time, and I feel like I have to answer them all the time, and I feel like if I don't answer them right away, I'm going to lose that sale, or they're going to be mad at me, or things like that. And so one way, and I'm very much like that too, I get anxiety about like having to answer messages, because I get so many every single day. I kid you not, I get anywhere from probably 25 to 100 different emails, inboxes, tags, every single day of my life, 7 days a week. It's like it never ends. And so one thing that is really, really important is to decide on a schedule and post your office hours and make that known. Especially on your business page, you can set up office hours on your Facebook page. You can put your office hours in your group. Anywhere that you can on your website, you need to put your hours of operation. So that way, not only for you feel like you're not anxious all the time because it's 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night, you're getting ready for bed, yet you have, 5 or 6 notifications that you have messages to answer. And it kind of gives you that peace of mind that you don't have to like stop what you're doing and work on the time that you're actually supposed to be off, because that's what a lot of us actually struggle with, is working too much or breaking our boundaries. And it's totally reasonable to have office hours, especially if you're doing this full time. I mean, it's a full-time career. Nobody can expect you to be available 24/7. It's just impossible. You can't do it. And so having your office hours posted is first and foremost for your boundaries and for their boundaries, so they know exactly when you might be available. And I always put at the bottom, subject to availability. Because if I put my office hours, I usually work Monday, Wednesday, Friday from like 7 o'clock in the morning till about 3 or 4 o'clock in the evening. That's my normal day. But, I may be too busy to even answer questions or get back with you. So I always put in that subject to availability to kind of cover my ass that says, yeah, maybe I'm here, maybe those are my office hours, but it doesn't mean I'm available to speak with you, right? Another thing too is that unless people are inboxing you on how to purchase your services or how to schedule an appointment with you, you've got to stop answering people. You absolutely have to. Something that I do sometimes, and I'm not ashamed to admit this, is if people are really, really clingy in inbox and they're not a paying client and they just want free information, there's a little gear that you can click on their chat. Fire truck. There's a little gear that you can touch and it'll say you can mute this conversation. I'll mute it like indefinitely, and so that I'm not barraged by people who have no intention of, have no intention of navigating themselves to where I've clearly posted where the free trainings are, who aren't interested in buying the course, who just want to pick your brain for 20 minutes because, you know, they think that they're entitled to that information for free, right? A lot of us deal with that, whether it's like people inboxing you, hey, I just have a quick question. Can you just pull one card for me? You know, can you just give me a yes or no answer? And for those types of people, just hit the mute button, you know? And if they really become a problem, if they become harassing or malicious, then just block them at that point. But at least when it comes to paying clients and when it comes to, you know, making sure that you are honoring your boundaries and not working in the times that you really should be sleeping or being with your family or doing self-care rituals, it's really super, super important that you honor that. And then setting up the office hours helps you honor that for yourself as well. It's so a lot of us look at self-care as like this reward, like I'm going to work hard this week. I'm going to do 20 readings, and then I'm going to treat myself to a nice dinner or a spa day or something like that. And that's absolutely the wrong way to go about it. Your self-care rituals are part of the formula for your success, okay? So we can't look at self-care, we can't look at our personal lives as this thing that we reward ourselves with later as we work hard. We really have to start incorporating it into our day on a day-to-day basis. And if nothing else in your life, the reason why I started my business is because I wanted to own my time. I wanted to be able to decide when I worked, when I don't work. I wanted to be able to go to the doctor when I need to because I have chronic illness. I wanted to be able to, you know, just take days off because I can't people that much. Like I can people for a long period of time, but then the next day I need like a day off. Like I just can't do 5 days a week and talk to 1,200 people online every single day. It's draining. And so office hours and scheduling in on your planner the days that you're actually going to do self-care or, you know, do your spa day, or whether it's at home or somewhere else, or, you know, fitting exercise in, you have to design your business around these priorities, because otherwise what's going to happen is you're going to work yourself to death. Maybe you have a lot of money. Maybe money is not an issue for you anymore. Maybe you have financial security, but I guarantee and I promise you that you are going to be miserable, and you're going to be like, this is just as bad as when I was working a job. Like, I don't own my time, right? So why go through all of this effort to learn marketing and business and come up with your offers? Why put all this energy into something if you're just going to treat it like a job, right? Does that make sense? Pamela says, I actually look for all that stuff before I purchase. Absolutely, I do too, because I want to know what I'm getting into. You can't always get refunds from people without proving something. Yep, yep, yep. Links on invoices, yep. Right, and to stick to it, learn that this week. Sticking to it is really, really hard, and every day you get a do-over, which is really important. But yeah, I mean, if you don't stick to it, and if you don't model that behavior, because as coaches, as healers, you know, as people who are, you know, spiritual leaders in our community, if we don't stick to our boundaries, guess what we're teaching other people? We're teaching other people indirectly that their boundaries don't matter either. And a lot of our clients come to us because they have issues with boundaries. And boundaries is going to be huge. We're actually going to devote a whole month to boundaries in February, which is why I'm kind of gearing up and kind of talking about it now. But I have so much to say about boundaries and how important it is to hold ourselves accountable as positive role models in this field, and also as just, you know, we don't want to be hypocrites either. A lot of our clients come to us because they're sensitive, because they also struggle with enforcing boundaries, speaking up, being assertive, fighting their authenticity in their own life, their life purpose, you know, things like this. Big part of, you know, coaching. And for us to not model our own boundaries effectively, you know, and then to become almost bitter or resentful, and then to transfer that energy onto our clients, that's not fair. And that's not why they're paying us a lot of money. They're paying us a lot of money because we represent and symbolize something that they want in their own lives. And it doesn't do us any good to not model that behavior. Pamela says, no, that's when office hours work. We live in a world where everyone has phones and people think they need answers immediately. Absolutely. It is absolutely an instant gratification culture, for sure. Especially if it's a stupid question. Can I change my workshop time? Pamela, that's not a stupid question. Mario says, hear you. Pamela says, same here. I need a break from people. Yeah, I'm totally an introvert. I have a Leo rising, and so I can come across as an extroverted person, but I'm a hermit crab. My moon is in Virgo, which is the hermit, and so, I really need to de-people. I'm such an empath. I need to take a spiritual bath. I need to cleanse. I need to get all this drama and stress off of me for the day. And sometimes it takes a whole day for me to do that. And that's okay. Pamela says, I have learned a lot with the sistership circles in business. Yeah. Marissa says, it's challenging to see contracts as a form of boundaries. I am not disagreeing with you. It just is something that I have trouble seeing as a boundary issue. So I'm glad you're discussing this. Awesome. I'm glad. Maria says, yes, yes. Okay, so I obviously have a lot to talk about on boundaries and office hours and things like that, right, and self-care. But the next thing we want to put in is for entertainment purposes only clause. That's definitely something that we definitely want to put in for entertainment purposes only. Especially, that's basically the law. I mean, there's a lot of places, still even in the United States of all places, that are really strict about, witchcraft, selling witchcraft, or pretending to tell fortunes. And that's what most of it is. It's laws against trying to protect people from fraud. And so really the law is there to protect people who are unwittingly or unknowingly or naive enough to go to someone who is actually putting on a show and who's a scam artist, like a psychic scam artist or a psychic fraud. Now, we aren't frauds. Obviously, we take this very seriously, and we devote a lot of our life and energy to this particular field that we're in. However, the truth is there are bad people out there who are just in this for the money or don't have any psychic abilities or at all, and are just trying to sell curse removals and, expensive potions, and usually it's in a very threatening way, right? And so, but there can be a gray line, when it comes to, because, the police, the authorities, nobody knows you, nobody really knows what's in your heart, right? And so this whole, for entertainment purposes only, that's going to save your butt when it comes to someone who's like a big, like disgruntled customer, or accuses you of being a fraud or a scam artist or something like that, which is really, really hurtful. But if you have that for entertainment purposes only, you're kind of like, okay, this isn't like, I'm not actually going to give you this potion. You're not actually going to lose 50 pounds. And if you believe that, this is for entertainment purposes only. A lot of us don't do that here. That's not really what we're about, especially the people that do this full time as a career. But that is something that happens out there, and it is something to kind of be aware of, and why we need that disclaimer, and why we need that on our websites. I know. Susan says, I hear you. I have to de-people. It takes me a good 2 to 3 days to de-people when it gets to me too much. Yeah, absolutely. 5 days at a restaurant and you turn into a hermit during the weekends. Absolutely. I mean, yeah, for sure. I can turn into a hermit for weeks. I can do that too. Okay, the next one is an age restriction clause. You need to make sure that you are putting for 18 or older, or the legal age in their country of origin. It is illegal. Psychic readings and things like that are kind of lumped in the same category as tobacco, alcohol, getting a piercing, getting a tattoo. It's definitely for adults only unless you have parental permission. There isn't really a lot of clarity about laws like, okay, can I be 16 and have parental permission? But generally speaking, that's going to come in later. You're going to have the parent sign a hold harmless agreement. And so basically you need to make sure that people know that they have to be 18 or over. And I'm going to use Kimberly as an example because she just and that's across the board. Psychic hotlines, you have to be 18. If you have someone who's under 18 in your chat, or you realize that they're under 18 and they're not legal in their country of origin, which the country of origin age limit is 18 in the United States. It could be 16 or 17 in some other countries. In Europe, it kind of just depends. So that's something to be aware of. But in most international companies that I've worked with have just pretty much done 18 and over. That seems to be like the general consensus of when people are allowed to pay for and receive readings. And I'm going to use Kimberly as an example of why this can be a problem. So Kimberly had a client on the hotlines come in who was asking her questions of a sexual nature. She was asking her questions about like when she would lose her virginity or what boy wanted to sleep with her or something like that. And she gave Kimberly her year of birth. Kimberly did the math and found out that this little girl was only 16 years old. If Kimberly would have continued that conversation with that client, and if it was a client of her own, she could be in so much trouble for talking about things of a sexual nature with a minor. Big trouble, big trouble. That's totally illegal. You can't do that. And, it could open up a can of worms. So I would definitely, it's not just for things of a sexual nature, why you can't do that, but kids under 18, they don't have anybody, they don't have any type of way to be responsible for the choices. They're not legally responsible for that. And so, if you try to give advice or any type of like counseling to someone under 18 without parental permission, you're going to deal with a very angry parent once they find out. And or if the conversation goes to an adult nature, that's huge. That's big trouble. You can get in some serious trouble for that. Where's the best place to put for entertainment purposes only? Under your terms and conditions, LaTanya. I do 19 and over. I did one with a parent once. Yeah. And you can decide if you think 18 is too young, if you think 25 is not someone who you really want to work with, put it in your terms and conditions that they have to be at least such and such age to receive a reading with you. Marissa says, LaTanya says, I'm wondering about this also. I have the not suitable. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that. Hi, Victoria. Good to see you. That's okay if you're late. No problem. The next one is a hold harmless agreement. The hold harmless agreement basically stipulates that if there are negative consequences, like say, for example, someone comes to you and a woman comes to you, she wants to know if her husband's cheating. You see in the cards that, maybe there's some distrust or maybe there could be some infidelity or thoughts. But again, you're not going to tell them, like yes or no, is my husband cheating or is he not cheating? What you want to say is, no, it doesn't look likely according to the cards. Or yes, it could be likely according to the cards. You never want to say your husband's cheating, okay? Or your husband's not cheating. Because what happens when you're wrong and the husband isn't cheating, you told her that it was because you saw the Three of Cups reversed in the devil, and maybe he was just having, thoughts about someone and it didn't actually manifest yet. You told her that he was. She files for divorce, she goes to court, she loses everything, and now she wants to sue your butt because you told her without a shadow of doubt that he was cheating. Okay, so first of all, you really want to make sure you're aware of the language that you're using, and second, you want to hold harmless agreement. They're very easy to find online. Just type in hold harmless agreement, and basically, it just basically states that any negative consequences or any consequences, good or bad, you can't hold the person liable because for entertainment purposes only, okay? Pamela says, I don't do under 19 because they are impressionable and I don't want the reading to stick in their mind instead of having them. That's a very good, yeah, absolutely. That's definitely true. And the hold harmless agreement is something you want to put in anyways. I mean, whenever you go get a tattoo or piercing or anything like that, you have to sign something like that too. So it's just, a lot of businesses use them. It's not just for us. Okay, any questions about office hours, entertainment purposes only, age restriction, or hold harmless agreement? Any questions about those? Pamela says it doesn't have to be physically cheating. It could be having his mind on it too much on work. I mean, yeah, it literally could be anything that is there. It's not really for us to say whether they are or they aren't. We can say what we see in the cards, but I would really be skeptical and I would really be hesitant to say, without a shadow of doubt, yes, this is happening or no, this isn't happening. Because, you know, that's another person with a life on the other end of the line. And wow, you could really screw up someone's life. You could really do a number on someone's life. Leonie says she agrees. Victoria says, if because you told her he's cheating on her, his family can't come back and sue you. What does that mean? Can't come back and sue you? Can come back, I think you mean. Can we say that we don't want to read for another person, only for the client? That would be perfectly fine in your own practice, yes. On the hotlines, you're not going to really be able to get away with that. I mean, you could, but you're just going to, that's not what the hotlines are for. But when you're dealing with your own clients, yes, you absolutely say, I don't want to do third-party readings. You refund their money. You say, sorry, we're not a good fit. A third-party reading. Yeah, it is a third-party reading. There's nothing, I mean, I personally don't have anything wrong with third-party readings. It's not against my ethics or anything like that. I'm just very cautious about the language that I use. But some people don't like doing third-party readings at all, and that's okay too. Like, you don't have to. You can totally decide you don't want to. Okay, not a substitute for medical, financial, or mental health counseling disclaimer. This is something that's very important, especially if you do Reiki, especially if you do any type of like readings on business, readings on investment. Most psychic hotlines actually do not, I know Keen, for example, is very, very strict on this. They will not allow you to do readings on investments, 401ks, retirement benefits, stocks, bonds. You can't do pregnancy readings, you can't do health readings, you can't do Reiki on Keen. So if you are going to get your own clients and you are thinking about doing medical mediumship, or you are thinking about doing readings on businesses and investments, and like doing a crossroad reading on like which house should I buy, or you know, what stock should I invest in, if you want to entertain these types of readings, you can. But again, you want to be careful of the language, and you also want to have this clearly posted that you are not, your advice is not suitable as medical, financial, or mental health counseling. Now, I don't really get a lot of those anymore. If she harms him based on the advice you gave her, my lawyer told me this along. We'll have to talk about that, Victoria. I'm curious what I'm curious. I need the whole story. I need the scoop on that. I'm curious how that works. Okay, so I don't really deal with the whole medical financial thing as much anymore. I don't really deal with that personally. What I do deal with is the mental health part of it. And I will often, sometimes occasionally get maybe 1 or 2 clients per year who sign up for business coaching, or they sign up for, you know, a psychic reading for their business or something. And they turn it into a therapy session. And that's not what I am. I am not a therapist. I'm not a counselor. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a psychotherapist. I'm none of those things. I help you learn how to run your business. And boundaries can blur sometimes when you have people that don't really understand that, or don't have a lot of people in their life that they can talk to about their personal things. I'll give you one example. I had one example like maybe earlier this year. She told me that she had a certain type of mental illness, and so I tried to be very open-minded because I also have mental illnesses as well, and I try to not allow that to be like a stereotype or something that would prevent me from working with someone. But she was very upfront about it, that she did have, you know, these problems, and I said, okay, you know, well, let's just see how it goes, you know. And I told her, I said, look, I'm not a therapist, I'm not a medical professional. Sessions are not for, you know, talking about how X, Y, and Z is in your personal life is not working out. When I come to a coaching call with my clients, I expect to be talking about their business or their personal life and how it relates to their business. Well, long story short, I tried working with this woman for about 6 months, and it just wasn't working out. Every time I got onto the phone with her, she didn't want to talk about her business, and she wanted to talk about how everybody else is a problem, and the neighbor's dog and the kids next door. And I was like, okay, what are we doing? What are we doing here? And so I basically had to terminate her. I had to fire her, and I had to say, look, I am not a medical professional. I'm not a therapist or counselor. This is not what I do. I told you this very explicitly. I have it in my terms and conditions. Because of that, I'm going to be releasing your contract, and I will not be able to provide you any refunds for that, because you knew full and well coming into this what the expectation was. And she basically wrote me back, and she wrote me back a hellacious letter and called me all sorts of names and things like that. But I was able to move on from that situation without being too invested, because I already told her and had it in my terms and conditions that I'm not a counselor, and I already had this conversation up front, and so I was able to move on from that, and I didn't care, like, what, sorry, I've clearly explained what this is. You obviously have problems. We can't work through these problems. I'm gonna have to let you go. Okay, so any questions about medical, financial, or mental health counseling, right? So you want to make sure that you put that everywhere. So if you do any type of financial readings or medical, or you do not want to be known as a counselor, or your reading style is not like a counsel style, and it's more about like, it's not, when I hear counseling, let's just clarify this for a minute, because it's really important, I think, that we do that. So when I think of counseling, I think of someone who just wants to talk about their day and talk about their problems and just kind of work through things, like talk therapy, right? But when I think of a reading, I'm thinking of empowerment. I'm thinking of brainstorming. I'm thinking of being solution oriented. And when I get someone on the other end that is not solution oriented, I automatically place them into the counseling pile, and I decide that we're not a good fit, because I want the person on the other end of the line who's seeking my advice to be just as solution oriented as I am. And that's what makes you a coach. You as a coach or a mentor, it's your job to kind of help people stay accountable to their goals, or to work people through their goals. But if they're not making any progress, if they're just simply using it as a talk therapy session, and that's not what you want personally, then you really want to put this in there and make sure that that's posted. Victoria says, I tell people I'm not a therapist and I don't play one on YouTube. Right, absolutely. Never mind the fact that you can get into serious trouble if you try to pass off your word as medical advice or financial advice, or representing yourself as a counselor when you don't have those credentials, right? It's a very big problem. Susan says, right, there is a difference in a coaching session and talk therapy, right? And they all have their place, right? I also have been through counseling. I've also seen mental health experts. I've also done talk therapy. There is a place and a time for it, but that is not in that time and place is not in a reading, okay? All right, so code of ethics. Let's talk about code of ethics for a second. So code of ethics, show me in the comment section, or give me a heart, or or if you have a code of ethics already settled out, like I will or won't do third-party readings. I will or won't give timelines. I will or won't read about certain topics, right? How many of you actually have a code of ethics and have that code of ethics posted? If you don't, I would absolutely recommend that you start thinking about some of the things that you simply do not want to do. There's this misconception out there that we kind of have to be available for everything to get that business. And it's kind of like when you first start out, like you don't want to lose any sales, so you just kind of take whatever comes, and you're not really that picky, because at that point it's more about being able to buy groceries or paying your car bill or your mortgage or your insurance on time. But as you start getting yourself situated, and as you start, you're working on the lines, you're stockpiling money, you've got a nice little nest egg, couple $1,000s in your savings or checking account, hopefully after maybe 6 months to a year of working on the psychic hotlines, you got your little nest egg. Now you're ready to start, working on your own. And at the beginning, maybe you take clients that you don't really love or want, but you take them because you want the money, you want the experience. After you've been doing that for a good 3-6 months or so, it's time to really start thinking about your code of ethics. You're going to find out really fast which readings you don't like to do. For example, One of the readings that I didn't like to do for a very, very long time were the cheating readings. If it was about cheating or infidelity, I didn't want anything to do with it. And that's okay. You can give yourself permission to not do the things that you don't want to do. Now, on the flip side of that, I think it is important to stretch yourself and to work through, triggers and to work through shadows. The reason why I didn't want to do cheating and infidelity readings is because I was really insecure in my own marriage. And every time I had someone come to me that wanted to talk about cheating or infidelity, I would automatically become this monster that started treating my husband poorly because I was convinced that all husbands are cheating, right? And it took me a little while to kind of work through that and decide that I wanted to be better. I wanted to be a better person than my triggers. And I didn't want to deal with this anymore. I didn't want to be triggered by this anymore. At a certain point, we kind of get to the point where we can decide, do I want to actually, is it that I don't really want to do this and then it's not aligned for me? Or is it because I'm having an emotional reaction to it and there's something deeper here that I need to work on for myself? I can't answer that question for you. That's something that you kind of have to, answer for yourself and find that line. And, we'll go back and forth between there, we'll work through it a little. It's not a trigger, and then it'll become a trigger, and then we'll work through it, and eventually you work through something enough to where it's not a trigger anymore, right? But that's something only that really you can decide. But the most important thing I'm telling you today is that if you are uncomfortable doing something and it doesn't feel good with your ethics, make that clearly known and put it on your code of ethics, put it on your website, put it in your Etsy listings, put it on your Psychic Hotlines profile, do whatever you need to do to, protect your boundaries and safeguard your emotional self as much as you can. And it's totally okay if you want to do that. I do have a code of ethics. Good. Oh, Susan says absolutely both have their places. It's a fine line for us to not tread over giving talk therapy without those credentials. Yep. Yep. Especially when we're talking about traumas like sexual abuse or domestic abuse or, anything that's like that could cause some sort of PTSD reaction. We want to make sure. Oh, and by the way, this is something that I didn't say, but I do want to say it. It is totally okay to tell someone that you recommend that they seek professional help. Sometimes we feel kind of weird about that. Like we feel like we're brushing someone off, or we feel like, we're being rude by suggesting to someone that they should talk to a counselor. But in reality, that's knowing where you operate and where you can't operate, right? That's knowing where your limitation is as a coach, as a reader, as a healer, and where you are helpful and where you're not helpful. So I don't want anybody to think that they can't suggest someone go see, professional, get a counselor or, seek professional help of some sort. People are going to respond to that however they're going to respond. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're wrong for suggesting that if you get a negative reaction. I've suggested to people go seek counseling or to work with a therapist while they're working with me at the same time as some sort of complementary, type of relationship. And I've had people that have been like, yeah, you know what, I'm going to go talk to a counselor. You're right. I was in counseling before, and I see how I really need to, talk to someone about this. And then I've also had people where they're like, F you, like, I don't need a therapist and I'm fine, and things like that. But when you know that something is outside your realm and you want to refer someone out, either to a specialist or tell them that they want to go, that you think that they should go maybe seek counseling, or or maybe there's a reading that you want to do that you're not really, or there's a reading they want you to do that you don't want to do. It's totally okay to refer people out to other practitioners as well. I refer people out all the time. In fact, probably 70% of the time I turn clients down now, simply because I know exactly who I want to help, I know how I help them, and I know what my zone of genius is. And anything else, I have no problem referring out. But anyways, you're going to have people that are not going to have a good response to that. You're going to have people that are going to be like, oh yeah, you're right. The people that don't have a good response to that, usually one of two things happens. One, they just stop being a client of yours, or they just, disappear and they write you a bad review and you're like, this person is blah, blah, blah. Or they have a negative reaction. They think about it for a couple weeks, and then they decide, you know what, you're right. And then they'll come back, they'll apologize, they'll say, I'm sorry for how I reacted. I thought about it. Maybe I do need to seek counseling, right? Okay, Susan says, I do have a code of ethics. One of the very first things I put on my WordPress blog at the beginning of 2014. Very good. Marissa, got them memorized too. Family has heard that I read tarot and want a reading. They come to me wanting lottery numbers. I'm like, seriously? Nope. Melina says, I tell people all the time to go see a counselor. Yeah, and here's the thing too, is that we have to erase the stigma of seeking mental health. And a lot of the negative reactions are because of that stigma, because there's something wrong with you, you're broken, you need help, and that's just not the case. Anybody could see a counselor at any time for any reason. That's why we have these opportunities available. And so we, by helping people decide whether or not they should or shouldn't seek counseling, kind of helps with reducing the stigma involved in seeking counseling, because that's what keeps most people from seeking counseling. It's not the price, because there's really affordable counseling now. There's like text apps and things like that, kind of like the psychic hotlines, but for counselors, for psychiatrists. It's not the price, it's not the work, it's not putting the time into it. Most of the time, why people don't seek mental health is because there's a stigma. I'm going to turn my phone off. Give me 1 second, because I have people texting me. Okay. Susan says, you're actually helping them by making a suggestion. Marissa says, I make sure that people having physical or mental symptoms during a spiritual awakening have seen a doctor or a therapist to make sure there isn't an issue. It can be complex, especially for you, because you do soul retrieval and you're in shamanic studies, and there's a very, very big link between shamanic studies and mental illness. So especially for you, because you're in a niche where there's a lot of overlap there. Susan says, no shame in asking for help when you need it. That's absolutely right. And that's part of loving yourself enough to ask for help when you need it, right? Very good. Okay, so we're kind of talking about crisis situations, and this kind of like bleeds in together. So you also need some type of crisis situation protocol. I've had people on the phone where they're like, I'm going to kill myself, or I'm going to kill my kid, or I'm going to self-harm, I'm going to cut myself, or I'm going to drink this whole bottle of Patron and take some sleeping pills and just wake up tomorrow, right? Or my husband is beating me, or my wife is beating me, or my husband beats the kids, or my wife beats the kids, or I beat my children. There are a lot of confessions that come out. When you're working on the psychic hotlines, the first thing you need to do is contact support, send them a transcript, or tell them the member name, the time, and everything like that. You have to report that immediately, okay? You have to report that immediately. When it's on your own, it's kind of a different story, okay? So what you need to do is you need to outline what your protocol is. So how I word it is, you can tell me whatever you want to tell me. You can confide whatever you want to confide in with me. But if I feel that you or someone in your environment is in physical danger, then I am obligated to report that, okay? So if you don't want, and I really consider when people make confessions like that, I really consider that as a cry for help. Because if they didn't want someone to interfere, they didn't want someone to call the police or report it, then they wouldn't have said anything about it. So I write in that if you admit to me of illegal activity or domestic abuse or sexual abuse or anything like that, illegal businesses, fraud, that sort of thing. It's amazing what comes up in private sessions. I'm telling you, you learn a lot about that underbelly of the world and all of these things that go on in the shadows and in the darkness that you didn't know but they do. And so you need some sort of protocol. If you tell me that you're beating your kids, I'm going to have to report you. If you tell me that your husband is beating you, I'm going to have to report him. I'm going to have to put in an anonymous tip somewhere, right? if you tell me that, you know, other different things, you need to be able to let people know that if they tell you certain private information, that you, unfortunately, as a professional, you have no choice but to report that. And how you report that is you just, you make an anonymous tip. Try to find out, ask the person, you know, where they live, see if you can get any type of identifying information. On the hotlines, you have to be careful. Don't do that on the hotlines. On the hotlines, simply just report it to the admins. They will take care of it. They will investigate it. If it's a private client, ask them if you can get their county or if you can get their city and make that call. Okay, it's very important that you do, because if you know something is going on, they admitted something to you, on your conscience as the person on the other line, as the professional, what if you read a news story the next day that husband killed his wife? Or what if you read the next day that the wife drowned her children? Okay, and that was a client of yours, and you could have done something to prevent that. Or what if your client says they're going to self-harm, or they're going to drink a whole bottle of alcohol and pills, and they're just going to hope for the best? Okay, what if you woke up the next morning and saw that that person had committed suicide, right? And you had a chance to help prevent that. It's very, very, very serious. So I tell my clients, look, if you tell me that you're having thoughts of harm, if you tell me that you're being abused or that you are the abuser, I'm going to have to report you. I have no other way that I can go about this. That is my obligation, okay? Mario says, I can't tell you how many times I end up finding out about someone has mental health problems after I've done the reading. It's in the reading. I like recommending Talkspace as an online, affordable, and verified therapist. Absolutely great. Thank you for that recommendation. So Talkspace. Another thing, too, is that you need the crisis hotlines, okay? So the very first thing you do is you grab the crisis hotlines. Those are in the free group, in the heart-centered group. In the Make Epic Money on the psychic hotlines, the crisis hotlines are in there. There's one for veterans, there's one for suicide prevention, there's one for incest, there's one for domestic abuse, there's a whole bunch of different ones, and there's even more out there. So you always want to have those on hand, put them on your computer, print it out, put it in your professional binder. Make sure you go through and update those on a yearly basis, and make sure that you have those available, because actually the first thing you do is you want to give them the crisis hotline, tell them to go seek help, and then tell them that you're going to be reporting it. And if they hang up, then they hang up, okay? At that point, then they're just, I'm not going to speak ill of people who do, there are people, okay, let me put it this way. There are people out there who will lie about these things. It's kind of like hypochondria, but it's about being abused. I don't know what the word is, but it's like, people who have a delusional fantasy that they're being abused and things like that. And so the people that are not genuinely crying out for help will usually get defiant and angry and things like that, and they'll hang up. And, we really want to make it to where, we don't want people to lie about those things. Those are not things that you should lie about, right? Just to seek attention. So if you take it seriously and you tell someone, okay, I'm going to be reporting this, then you've kind of covered your ground to where, if they're lying about it, then they know that you're not someone that they can carry on this manipulative, narcissistic relationship with, and they're going to leave your zone. They're going to leave your space because they know that you're not going to play around with that kind of information. Victoria, I had a woman who knew her husband was sexually abusing her children. I told that I'm a mandatory reporter, like a doctor. She was mad, then grateful. Yep. Victoria, Munchausen by proxy. Yeah. Yeah, so it is a thing, and people will lie about it sometimes. I prefer to assume everybody's telling the truth until I realize that they're not, and then I don't trust them anymore after that. But if they are telling the truth and it's serious, it needs to be reported. If they're lying, that's serious too. That also needs to be reported. That person needs to learn a lesson that they can't do that. They can't burden other people with this sort of information because they're getting some sort of attention satisfaction out of it. Okay, it's very serious. Okay. Any question about crisis hotlines? Any questions about crisis situations? Any questions about code of ethics? Or any comments? Any comments or questions? We're doing pretty good on time. I think we're going to finish in under 2 hours for sure. Okay, no questions. All right. Now, we're going to start talking about liability. Liability. True or false? If you have liability insurance and malpractice insurance, you don't need client contracts. True or false? So the first thing we're going to talk about is commercial endorsement and affiliate marketing clause. Okay, so if you are an affiliate marketer, meaning you earn a commission based off of, like, if you have an Amazon store, or you're selling a product for another company and using a referral link, or if you want to have your friend join the psychic hotlines and you use your affiliate link, you have to tell people that you are an affiliate and that you earn a commission. It's illegal to not do that, okay? Because basically it's like you're endorsing a product or a service and you're earning a kickback off of it, and consumers need to be aware of that because your opinion of that product or service could be biased. False. Marissa, I would know all of this should be on a link on your website that you just copy and paste and put that link into all of your listings and on your and all your invoices. So this all doesn't need to be like verbatim on your Etsy listings, but it should be on your website and hyperlinked to there. Ideally, in a perfect world, okay? Liability with third-party websites and or payment processors. This is huge. You need to have some sort of liability clause that you're not responsible for third-party websites or payment processors. Third-party websites. So let's say, for example, you recommend you endorse in your coaching session that someone is paying for, that you endorse a specific website. Let's just say that website owner has really great content, but let's say that they are extremely racist or they're homophobic or something like that. And the next thing you know, they have, homophobic or negative things about different types of races, or it could be anything. It literally could be anything, but I'm talking about the most extreme cases. Let's say that person starts releasing like hate crime type of stuff on their website. Do you want to be associated with that person, right? Is that your client's emotional distress? Are you liable for your client's emotional distress based off of someone else's content, someone else's website, right? You want to make it very clear that you are not liable for what other people post on their own websites, whether or not you endorse that, whether you're an affiliate and you get a commission based off of that, or you simply endorse it because you previously thought that it was good, until something bad happened. And or another situation where this could come into play with third-party websites and payment processors, happens all the time. What if they get hacked? What if PayPal gets hacked and all of these credit cards are now vulnerable and scammers and hackers have all of this information, right? So you're not liable for that because it has nothing to do with you. But you need to make sure that the person on the other end understands that you are only liable for what you say and do in your own coaching, healing, reading, or practice. You're not liable for any other third-party type of websites or payment processors or content that anybody else posts, whether you endorse them through affiliate marketing or whether you simply endorse them just by referring them out, okay? Very important. Okay, Kristen, thank you so much. Tanya says, where do I find the phone numbers for reporting people harming others or for themselves? I don't know of anyone that is like, there's probably some places out there that are specifically like a volunteer group or a group that does that. But what I do, Tanya, is I try to get that person's city or county, and I try to get their full real name. Sometimes I'll go back and look at their credit card statements and see if I can get the name that way. Or I'll look at, I'll type in, if I have their phone number, I'll type in their phone number, see if I can get a white pages kind of ad, go from there. You have to do kind of like a little bit of detective work, but otherwise, you can put in an anonymous tip to their local police station. I'm sure there's some places out there that do that sort of thing, but unless you have any, but regardless, whether or not, you work with them one-on-one, and you want to report them, period, you still need some type of identifying information. You still need their first and last name, or last name if possible, and the city that they live in or work in or something like that. You still need some sort of identifiable information, because even if you reported it to some group that kind of like worked to do that sort of thing and you don't have that information, they're not going to have any luck, finding that person either. So that's what I would do. That's what I do. I try to get their first and last name. I try to get their county and or their city, and then I call the police station and make an anonymous tip. Or you can, some police stations, you can go on their website and you can actually put in a ticket. And so you don't even have to call in sometimes. You can just put in a ticket for an anonymous tip. There are national, international hotlines on the internet to have on hand. How to get it out on a radio show. Yeah. Yeah, it's a great idea to have those on hand, for sure. Okay, the next thing you're going to probably need is some sort of third-party promotional products and or services liability clause. So let's say, we've already kind of talked about services, but like, let's say, for example, I got on here and I told you about this new foundation that I really liked. And I was like, oh, you need to buy this foundation. It works great for studio lighting and things like that. And I was like, it's this brand, it's this bottle, that sort of thing. Kind of like the beauty influencers, or like they're called, well, just in general, it's called being an influencer. So if you get contacted for like sponsorship deals, or, if companies send you free products and they want you to review it online, or, some type of like mystical, magical type of supplies, or incense, candles, that sort of thing. If a company sends that to you and they want you to kind of review it, you need to let people know that you're not liable for their results. Because, for example, if I tell you to buy this foundation that I really like and you have a negative skin reaction to it, what's going to happen? Are you going to try to sue me? I'm not responsible for that, and so we need to make sure that these little clauses are there to make sure that if we're endorsing anything, and it's really funny because a lot of us don't really think about that. We just kind of do it, But the reality is that if you don't have that like clearly stated that you're not liable for products, services, payment processors that are third parties, people can possibly hold you accountable. I mean, whether or not you are accountable, you're not. But, it's all of this is to prevent you from having to go to court or being sued in the long run. Pamela says, thank God the lady already did her homework for the numbers. Yeah, by the way, again, that is in the Heart-Centered Unit section group. It's in under the Make Epic Money on the Psychic Hotlines. It's at the very bottom. There's a whole crisis hotline list. Any questions about liability with third-party websites, payment processors, promotional products, and or services? Any questions about those? Okay, so probably the most important, one of the most important is your refund policy, your reschedule policy, and your cancellation policy. And we're going to go into payment plans and things like that next. But refund policy, okay, unpopular opinion. I don't believe in refunds, okay? Unless it's a clerical error or something like that. But if someone buys a package from me, or they buy a reading from me or something like that, and I've already spent the time to deliver that information or have that, session with that client, hell no, I am not giving a refund. There's this kind of culture out there that's like, or, this ideology out there that is perpetrated by like the big box stores that Burger King, have it your way, or, the customer is always right. When you work in retail or you do any type of like, associate-wise, kind of like any type of sales job or something like that, any type of customer service job, really. There's this mentality that the customer is always right. And I'm going to tell you, unpopular opinion, I don't believe that. I think that's a crock of shit. I'd have never believed that the customer is always right. Even when I was on the other end of the counter and I was having problems with certain things, I am trying to get an exchange or something like that. Now, I will do credit and I will do exchanges and things like that, but I will go to my grave before I will ever give a refund on a session or a product or something that I've sold. I've delivered my end. I've made every attempt to make the information reasonable and accurate. And, I'm just not one of those people that believe in refunds. I've never asked for a refund, not once in my life, for something that I've bought. unless it was like, they overcharged me, they rang up two of the same thing or something like that, or it rang up the wrong price at the store or something like that. Any coaching program, any course, any reading, any coaching session or anything like that I've ever bought in my career as a spiritual life coach, as a business coach, even if it was the crappiest session I've ever had, even if it was the most terrible course I've ever taken, that's a lesson for me to really be careful of what I buy. And I just don't believe in refunds. I don't believe in getting refunds, and I don't believe in giving refunds, okay? And a lot of us will, use PayPal, and something that you need to understand about PayPal and why I'm getting away from PayPal, I'm divorcing PayPal. Me and PayPal, we're over. Me and PayPal have been together since 2003, okay? That's 15 years. I've been on PayPal selling e-commerce for 15 years on PayPal, but I'm done. Because when you start, the reason why is because they protect their seller, or they protect their buyers. You don't really get a lot of protection as a seller, and when you have to fight for it, right? And so I'm not about that. I'd have better things to do. I'm not going to sit here and try to fight for a chargeback when I know full and well I've already delivered that value. Like I said, unpopular opinion, but that's my opinion nonetheless. Anyway, I'm divorcing PayPal because they make it just too easy for people to do chargebacks and to get refunds for things that they don't need a refund on, And I would severely recommend that, once you start getting to the point where, and for me, I do between $5,000 and $10,000 in transactions every single month. And so when you start getting up to that point where you're moving multiple thousands of dollars in your business, you have to graduate from PayPal, because what I've had happen to me is one time I had too many transactions come in one day. They froze my account for a couple weeks. I couldn't access any of that money until they investigated it to make sure it was legit. I've also had people try to do chargebacks on like hundreds of dollars worth of packages and courses. And then, that money gets frozen, and it's like, we're beyond this. This is ridiculous. We're starting to get ridiculous with this now. And since PayPal is always going to pretty much side with the buyer, I'm pretty much leaving. I use Stripe almost exclusively. I also use MoonClerk. I also use Wave Apps, HCH. I pretty much do HCH payments only, pretty much now. I still have some people on PayPal, but these people I trust that are not going to do that to me. Also, another thing too you need to consider is this is something I've enacted this year, and it has been wonderful. I barely get any chargebacks or refund requests now that I've done this, okay? And here's what it is. If someone's not happy with something I've sold them, and they ask me for a refund or initiate a chargeback, whether they're disputing it with their bank or something like that, and I've already delivered most, if not all, of the services or products that I've said that I'm going to deliver, if they initiate a chargeback, they're banned. They're done. We're done. Coaching relationship is over. You're kicked out of the group. You lose access to the course. You lose access to my free group. You get banned on all my social media profiles. I'm not playing around anymore. I'm not playing around with people who think that they can just ask for refunds and willy-nilly, like this is fucking this is Walmart. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to curse. I'm getting riled up. But I'm not gonna do that. I'm not Walmart. I'm a one-person person. I'm a one-person business. I don't have a team. I have, some VAs. I have some people that work for me on the side and do contract work. But, when people try to get a refund for something that I've already delivered, that they've already had access to, they're taking money out of my mouth. They're taking money away from me paying my mortgage. This is not about paying the CEO bonuses. This is not going to come out of the CEO bonuses. This is going to come out of, my savings account, my retirement account. And I'm just not doing it anymore. I'm just not doing it. So when it comes to refunds, I would really recommend that you don't offer them. And if you are going to accept PayPal, know that that is a risk. Me too. It's not happening, baby. No way, no how. The customer is not always right. In fact, they're wrong about 50% of the time. Are you using Stripe? I am using Stripe. Not for readings. You can't really do readings on Stripe unless you're going to sell consulting. So if you're going to use Stripe, don't label yourself as a tarot reader or a psychic. Label yourself as a life coach. Otherwise, stick with Etsy, stick with some of these other ways that you can sell. What other payment processors are there aside from PayPal? There's MoonClerk, there is Stripe, there is ACH payments through Wave apps, which is what I really recommend people use anymore. And then pretty much a lot of these can actually integrate with WordPress, so you can, hyperlink buttons and things like that. So you have option. Really? I didn't know that. Victoria, PayPal is being sued for this right now in a civil suit. Susan says, it's all good. I'm like crazy and clapping here. Fantastic. So I try to not use the F word because if I use the F word, then my video gets demonetized on YouTube. And I'm trying really hard not to cuss, but unfortunately it happened. Okay, so refunds. Let's make an effort. Let's stop this whole refund mentality. Let's move forward. Everybody here, commit. No refunds, no refunds, no refunds, okay? Scream it from the top of the roof. Just get into the mindset that, you can't give me back my time that I spent selling this to you. You can't give me back the content that you already absorbed. You can't give me back the reading. I'm not giving you back your money. Cancellation policy. All right, so cancellation policy. This is kind of a complicated one. If you take cancellations and you really want to outline how long in advance they can cancel, okay? So if you have someone who signs up for a package or is on a subscription or something like that, technically for subscriptions, you can't really hold people accountable to not cancel. You can't really make it impossible for people to cancel because it's a subscription. However, if you phrase it as a payment plan and you give okay, so let's backtrack. What's the difference between a subscription and a payment plan? A subscription is an ongoing monthly, weekly, yearly fee that doesn't have an end date until the person cancels, right? A payment plan has a definitive start date, has a definitive end date, okay? So that's the difference. So subscription, ongoing payments, up to them to cancel whenever they want to. Payment plan, definitive start date, definitive end date, where their payment plan ends, where their the money that's coming out weekly or monthly or quarterly, however you do it. Payment plan is one thing, subscription is one thing. You can't really tell people that they have to say that they can't cancel their subscription. That doesn't really fly, okay? But if you decide to not do subscription and you decide to do more payment plans, and here's how you would actually word it, okay? So you could have two different offerings. You could have a new moon reading that you deliver once a month, and it's on a subscription plan, okay? And so they can decide, they can sign up and it just automatically takes the money out every single month, and however long they belong to your subscription is how long they get their new moon reading. Now, you could also, that way you can't really make them not cancel that. Now, if you were to sell it quarterly and require a payment plan for 3 months worth of readings, then you could say no cancellations, okay? Does everybody understand what the difference is there and how you need to kind of word it? And then if you do cancellations for one-on-one sessions, my thing is for reschedules. For reschedules, look, I need at least a week because I'm already booked out. I'm already booking into July of next year. So when people need to reschedule, guess what? I don't have it. I do not have it available. You need to reschedule your appointment. Okay, I'll see you in September, And that's kind of like one of the things too, is you definitely want to start making sure that when you do have reschedule policies that you're giving yourself ample enough time. Most doctor's offices and places like that have like a 48-hour cancellation policy where if you cancel within 48 hours, then they don't charge you a booking fee. You need to outline this. And if you are super busy like I am and you're seeing 20, 30 people a week, or just readings, or if you're doing like 1 hour coaching and you're seeing 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 people every week, you need to give yourself enough time to make sure that you can actually fill that spot, because reschedules, they literally cost you money, right? So the reschedule, yeah, maybe they already paid, but then you're just sitting there like a duck with nobody there. You need to make that time. When you're working, your time is valuable. Whether you are messing around in your business and doing updates on your website, you need to associate your time with an hourly value. My hourly value is $400 an hour, 2019. For the last 3 years, I've been at $200 an hour. For me, it's time to upgrade. For me, it's time to up level. I've done my time. I've invested my time into $200 or 2019, we're going 400. So if I'm sitting there literally doing nothing, I need to figure out how I'm going to be able to generate an additional $400 in that time. So I'm not just sitting there literally doing nothing and not being productive and not creating some sort of money or income. So for me, I like a week in advance for people to do cancellations. And I also have this in my clause too, that unless there are extenuating circumstances where that may not apply. For example, there's a death in the family or they're ill. I'm reasonable, and I'm considerate and I'm compassionate. But if, you just don't want to come, or, you would rather go to a party, or you would rather go to the movies than have your session with me, and you just want to reschedule, you need to give me a week in advance, because people are very impulsive, right? And so, I've had situations where clients are like, oh, this other thing came up, my friend's coming out of town and I want to hang out with them, and, things like that. And they tell me that the morning of, our session's in 3 hours. And I'm like, you know what, I can't, if you have to reschedule this, you forfeit it. So you need to be able to give people enough time, like a week before that they can reschedule. And then you also needed to put down, like, what are some circumstances in which you are understanding about that and can make exceptions. A death in the family, or they're very ill and they're in the ER, or their kid gets sick and they have to go pick them up from school, and then they have their kid. But I've even had clients that have had sick kids, and then they'll go get their kids, and then, I'm in the background, we're doing our coaching call, kids are screaming and crying in the background, but we still get through it. We soldier through it. You know what I mean? So I'm not an excuse person. I don't make excuses for myself, and I don't allow my clients to make excuses either. And so when you give enough ample warning to them where, like, you need to reschedule within a week, you can't call me the day of, you can't call me the day before, otherwise I'm going to keep your money basically as a booking fee, and you can decide, are you going to keep all of their money, or are you going to keep half their money as a booking fee, right? You need to have that in your terms and conditions so that people understand that your time is valuable and that they need to do everything in their power to show up for their coaching session. Victoria says, because they screw up eBay sellers big time, that's who's suing them in the class action lawsuit. Yeah, I believe it. I'm going to Google it because I'm really, really interested. Susan says that willingly cancel thing is a no-go. Yeah, I mean, why? And, some people, $400 on a coaching session is nothing to them. I have clients who make anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000 a month, and $400 is they'll just buy a new purse that month for $400, and it's nothing. Or I know people that'll go out and spend $400 on a dinner for, one night of dinner at a fancy restaurant, and it's nothing to them. $400 or whatever you charge, whatever it is your hourly rate, to someone out there who's going to hire you, it's literally nothing to them, and they don't really value it. So the more that you can safeguard yourself to where, you have a backup plan, okay, well, then I have this available, I have a week to pitch this, then I'll go, like, if I have a cancellation, I'll go into the mentorship program group, and I'll be like, I have an availability, first come, first serve, the first person who buys this gets it, and so that way I have plenty of time to fill in that spot, so I'm not just sitting there doing nothing and being unproductive, right? So always have, like, how can I create this income, and be prepared for when people need to cancel or reschedule, whether their reasons are legitimate or not, but always have a way that that you're going to create even more income instead of just, or I guess you could just take it as some free time and you could take some time off, but if you're sticking to your schedule, you have plenty of free time and time off anyways, right? Because you're already scheduling that in. Okay, so we're almost done here. So let's talk about delinquency on late payment consequences. So if you do have payment plans and you are generous and you give your clients a payment plan on their coaching session, or in the past I've offered payment plans on the Make Your Business Mentorship Program, and the Psychic Circle, and some other things programs that I run that I have offered in the past payment plans on. Oh, if they cancel their payment plan. This is when I'm generally a really nice person. Like, it doesn't take much to make me upset. Like, uh, I'm very easygoing. But when people cancel their payment plan and we've already entered into an agreement and they've already got access to the course or they've already got access to some of the sessions, if someone says that they want to cancel their payment plan, no way, Jose. No way. Like I said, the customer's not always right. We aren't big box stores. When people cancel their payment plan with you or want to cancel their payment plan with you, you can do what I do if you want. It's a little extreme, but you know what? No one messes with me. And if they mess with me, they don't mess with me for very long. They get one shot to mess with me. If they mess with me, they're out. And that is, if I offer you a payment plan out of the goodness of my heart because I feel that, you're going to commit to it, I feel like you are a good fit for a program or coaching with me, but I know that money is an issue and I know that you need a payment plan to make this accessible to you. If that person cancels their payment plan with me, again, they're booted out. They're kicked out of the course. They're kicked out of the package with coaching with me. They're kicked out of my groups, my free and paid groups. They're blocked on social media. They're blocked on all of my social platforms. I don't give people an option to cancel their payment plans with me because that's rude. That is so rude, and I just don't tolerate it. And if they're going to do that once, they're going to do it again. They're going to do it again, and it doesn't really matter. And most of the time, it's usually buyer's remorse. It's usually buyer's remorse. And you know what? As service providers, that is not your problem, especially if you're a student in the mentorship program. It's not your problem because you know exactly who you want to help, you know how you help them, and it's like you're accurately explaining who you are and what you do, and you're making these connections with people. And if people want to cancel payment plans, they need to go. They need to be done. They're not going to value any further. They're just going to turn into that person that simply wants to absorb your free content, that wants to ask you questions all the time, that wants to inbox you at 3 o'clock in the morning for things that don't matter. They turn into very problematic, codependent, clingy clients. And I'm not surprised. I just lost about 4 viewers as I'm talking about this, probably triggering some people right now, which is good. People need to be triggered. Any questions about breaking payment plan agreement consequences? Any questions about that for people who break your payment plans and the consequences that, now you don't have to go as extreme as I do, but look, I've been doing this for 10 years now professionally. Next year will be my 10-year anniversary. Like, I just don't have time to play anymore. You're going to get so busy where, you're going to be booking out several months ahead, and you just don't have time to play around with people anymore. The people that are jokers, that want to play around, that don't take this seriously, they need to just go. They need to go find someone else to bother. You are so valuable. And I wish that I could show each and every one of you how valuable you truly are. You will get to a point where you believe that and where you believe me, and you will see the value in what I'm saying right now. Right now, it might seem harsh. It might seem like I'm being mean, or it might seem like I'm being too extreme. But the reality is if you've been doing this as long as I have, and you have people that love you and want to work with you and value you, the people that don't, they just need to go. Okay, we're going to talk about the most fun thing, firing a client. Let me know in the comments section, how many have you ever had to fire a client? Susie says, not triggering me. I'm all in. I had a client like this, and I had to let her go because I didn't want her to drag around the one-on-one coaching. Yeah, because then they would be like rescheduling, and then it would turn a 3-month package into like a year-long package, and it's just, we don't have time for that. I want the client who is eager to do the work and transform their life. Me too. Susan says, boundaries are so important though and really need to be drawn like this. What you will do, what you won't do. I agree with you. You're not being mean, it's the truth. Exactly like Susie says, it's the truth. I've had to fire clients. Noni says, no, you're not. I told everyone how valuable they are. I tell everyone how valuable they are. So Mario, you've had to fire 2 clients. Not the funnest thing in the world. In fact, I hate firing clients. I hate being in conflict with any of my clients at all. That's like the worst feeling in the world, where you know you have to fire a client and you know that they're not going to be happy. So here's how this is handled, okay? The more ammunition that you have in your toolbox for reasons why this relationship is not going to work out, the better. And I'm going to kind of explain, I'm going to walk you through a couple clients that I've had to fire and the certain protocol that I've kind of taken. Divorcing clients are hard but necessary. It's hard, but you know, you feel so much better when you finally get rid of them, because they're keeping you, they're like a ball and chain on your foot, making everything in your life so much harder than it needs to be, you know? And honestly, we're not, no matter what you charge, you're not paid enough to put up with that. Even if you charge $1,000 an hour, even if you charge $5,000 an hour, that's still not enough to put up with someone who's just a problem and just doesn't want to do the work, or, you know, mistakes your sessions as a therapy session, or, you know, has a codependent, clingy relationship with you and doesn't have good boundaries and doesn't reflect good boundaries in their personal life and that sort of thing. Reasons why you may want to fire a client. Well, basically, you're not getting any success with them. They're not doing the work. They're not showing up. They're rescheduling. They're not following through on their homework. They're not learning anything. They're not evolving. You know, or they're asking about things that are against your code of ethics. And this is a funny one too. I used to have people that knew full and well what my code of ethics were. I would have conversations about my code of ethics with these people, but they still ask me anyway. They still ask me anyway. It's like there's certain people out there that get a special delight about getting people to break their boundaries, and they like it. They get off on it. What about when people want to ride your coattail without the work? Right, that's a big one too. That's a big one too. There's this, I also see this a lot of the times when, people are having issues in their life and they know that they're having issues, and they go to get a psychic reading and they find someone they really like and they become a repeat client. And let's say that the person reading them is really empowerment focused, wants to get into coaching, and likes to do tarot life coaching, or oracle life coaching, or whatever, some type of spiritual life coaching that involves some sort of divination process or medical physical process, whether yoga, chakras, affirmations, whatever it is. Okay, there's 1,010,000 different modalities that we can use for coaching, right? And they keep coming to the coach because they almost like think that just because they're showing up to their appointment means that they're doing something about their life, when in reality they're actually not. Again, this is kind of like that client that kind of mistakes it as a therapy session, or every single week they have the same problem but they never want to do anything with their life, that sort of situation. That happens too. There's other situations and scenarios where people will misunderstand and mistake hiring a coach, paying for a session, and having a session, and they'll kind of think that that's good enough. And these are more of our hobbyist kind of people, our hobby spiritual people. They're not really invested in it. It's kind of like just a gimmick for them. It's like a meme for them. It's just they want to feel like they're doing something, but they don't want to put any effort into it, and they just want someone to stroke their ego, or they just want someone that will sit and listen to their problems. And if that's your niche, if that's your thing and you like doing that, great. But I can tell you right now that that's not going to fly in the coaching world. It's absolutely not going to fly in the coaching and mentoring world. It's a different world altogether. But if you're doing fortune telling and that's your thing, and there's nothing wrong with that, it's very valuable and very much needed. But if you want to stay with the lower chakra people and do the fortune telling kind of readings, you're going to find that your type of client is really just, you're going to want to fire everyone eventually. That's my opinion. I mean, even the best fortune teller gets tired of somebody at some point, and unless you're charging, like $500 for a reading or something like that, then by all means you're being compensated for that energy, that time, and that patience level that you have to put into it. But most people, I would say 1 out of 20 people is going to be okay with that, but I would say 19 out of 20 people, after a certain period of time, they're just not going to be able to tolerate that, no matter how much money they're making. It's rather annoying, honestly. It is. It is. And Susan says, test the waters and see how far you can be pushed. Some people delight in that. I don't understand it. Jen says, it's so true. Leonie says, oh, yep, so true. Victoria says, when I feel like I would rather do anything, clean my garage, anything than read for that person. That's exactly right. That's it. You hit the nail on the head there, Victoria. When you are looking for reasons to not get on the phone with someone, there's something happening there. You know, if it can be rectified with a stern conversation and a talk about boundaries, a normal, reasonable person is going to hear you and see your point of view and make efforts to fix the situation. An unreasonable person is the person you need to fire. That we kind of talked about this in my first workshop for this, you know, the defiant clients who were abusive or malicious and things like that. If you haven't watched that, you probably want to watch that too. That's another really good one. Yeah, if you would, and you know that it's not going to be a matter of just having a uncomfortable but honest conversation. I have uncomfortable but honest conversations with people every single day of my life. People break my boundaries all the time, and it's not always because they're mean or malicious. I don't want to put that energy out there, but it's also because they just simply don't know any better, and they're coming into their own, selves are coming into their own ideas about boundaries. They didn't have a lot of good boundary role models in their life, and so they just don't know any better, and it's a naivety. You know what I mean? It's like they just don't know. And so if you have a conversation with someone, you clear that up, it's uncomfortable, but you have an honest conversation, then you can both work to fix the problem. Okay, if something's not working, let's fix this, right? But if they get defensive, if they, become mean or malicious, then you know very well that if they're repeatedly abusing your boundaries, even if you've told them not to do that, then you know that's absolutely someone that you need to let go. Then they tell people they know you. Yeah, that happens too. Or the client that argues with me through the whole session. Yep. Yep. To promote their site or Facebook. Oh my gosh, that happens too. That happens when you start getting a lot more famous. Yeah. Well, Leonie, you're on TV, so you're famous already. But I mean, for like our members that are like, I don't mean you're not famous. I mean like for our members that are new to this, when you start getting fame or when you start getting popular, everybody's your friend. Everybody knows you. And then they'll talk crap about you behind your back. It happens all the time. LaTanya, yep, so true, because they will completely drain your energy so terribly. Leonie says, you're all fired. Okay, so what happens? What happens if you're in this situation, 8 of Swords, and you're like, holy crap, this person is abusing me. I told them not to do this. I need to fire them. So what do? Well, you need to, if you notice that there's a problem with someone, the first time that they break your boundaries, you need to, and always record your readings, by the way. Always record your psychic readings, your psychic sessions, your psychic healings. Use Zoom or use freeconferencecall.com. Every single session you do needs to be recorded. You need to have that on recording as proof, okay? Not just for your clients as a complimentary thing that you offer them, but for you, for proof that this person is acting a certain way. If the conversation is over the phone, you have it, you make a note of it, you write up the details of what transpired, the conversation that you had. The client said that they would do X, Y, and Z. We'll reconvene in a later date, okay? If it's over like Facebook or social media, take screenshots. Take screenshots of the posts that they're putting. Take screenshots of the messages that they're sending you. You need to document everything. The moment that you think that that your intuition, your solar plexus drops and you feel like there's a knot in your stomach, you feel like there's like a rock just sitting right in your stomach, that's your intuition telling you that there's something going on. There's a red flag, and maybe it could be a misunderstanding. Maybe it could be a misinformation or a miscommunication. But if you don't document those things, when you go to write up your letter of termination and you don't have a whole list of incidents that have been documented, screenshotted, recorded, and reported, then you don't have very much in terms of like, then they're going to come at you and try to latch on still, and they're not going to be happy with this. But I've noticed that I had this one client earlier this year. She was just a disaster. She was mean to the people in the mentorship program. She would be writing threats of bodily harm about people. She was just a ridiculously rude, evil person. And I don't know where she came from, but we found her. She found me somehow, signed up for my program. I had to fire her. And when it came to firing her, I knew that there were going to be repercussions. I knew that this was not going to go down well, but I was armed and I was ready because I had 6 months worth of documents that proved, screenshotted, written down, date, time, everything, all of these infractions that this person had. So then when I sent her a letter that said, I'm sorry, we're not going to be able to work together anymore for the following reasons. We're not going to be able to work together or communicate in any shape or form anymore for the following reasons. Screenshot, 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 document, recording, notes, times, date, time and date stamps. She wrote back and said, F you. She couldn't say anything about it. Why? Because I already had documented so many different incidents, and I would screenshot something, and then I would include the line on my terms and conditions and highlight that in bold red, how that breaks my terms and conditions, how that breaks my boundaries. So if you have a client, set up a folder on your Google Drive. It's your bad client folder, okay? And it's, start making screenshots, start making, notes on when people break your boundaries. Say, I've warned this person, I've communicated with them, they said they're not going to do it anymore. If they do it again, take another screenshot. You know what? Unfortunately, I gave this person like 8 or 9 chances because I'm a nice, compassionate person and I really want to help people, and I feel like I can get through to some people, and some people I do. But moving forward, I'm really only going to give 3 chances. Three strikes, you're out. Doesn't matter how much you've paid me. Doesn't matter if you're going to try to do a charge back. Doesn't matter. There's no amount of money in the world that is worth me having to put up with someone else's BS. Okay. Susan says, for real, recently I was literally inviting people to break my boundaries without even realizing it. It does take work. It does. And we've been working on that, Susan, and that's okay. I mean, you're a fast learner, it's just like how you communicate, Hi, Kimberly. Oh, you didn't get an alert? I'm sorry. Victoria says, do you think that we should voice record in-person sessions? I think yes, but that's just me. Because have a log of incidents that you're writing down. Have some sort of proof. If it's unfeasible for you to record it, which in person, if you're at a fair or something and it's just like impossible, like the noise level is just impossible, or there's music or there's lots of sound and it's like it's impossible for you to record that session, but you have a negative experience, get out your physical log and write it down. Write down the time, the date, the person's first name, the last name, a short summary of what happened, how you felt about it, and why this is a problem, okay? So if you can't record it, you can't record it. But the more that you have, the better. But I would definitely just at least write something down, write down these incidents. Because if you don't, and this happens to me all the time too, is I forget because I talk to so many people every single day. I see so many people every week. I have almost 70 students just in the mentorship program alone. And then there's almost 900 of you just in the free group. So, I talk to a lot of people every single day. And sometimes I just plain forget. I forget that people do certain things. It's just because my attention span, I just can't retain that information. So what happens if you're like 3 sessions, down the line and they keep doing something and then you're finally reminded, oh yeah, they did this to me before and you didn't write it down, or you don't remember that they did this to you before, and you're giving people 7 or 8 chances before you catch on that there's a problem, right? So just do what you can. Hi, Jennifer. Heron. Hi, Jennifer Peakwood. Good to see you. My children put me into training on this. Oh, good. Wonderful. Wonderful. What do your children do, Mario? How do they put you into training on this? Is that like their job, or are they in HR? This is like more, if you are familiar with HR protocol, this is like HR protocol, human resources. So I've already talked about screenshots and conversation logs. Oh, and not only screenshot it, but also copy and paste the transcription log. Never delete your comments, okay? And never leave a chat or anything like that without first grabbing the transcription log, pasting it into their client file, and then, you know, if you need to delete and block them, then go ahead and delete and block them. But make sure you always grab that transcription first. GDPR compliant privacy policy of website and newsletter. Okay, so we're going to talk about this really quickly, and then we're going to talk about the DMCA takedown notice, and that's the last things I have to talk about. So any questions about letters of termination, termination clause, reasons why you might fire a client, you want to outline that as well. Any questions about screenshots, conversation logs, anything about that? Kimberly says, what I've dealt with unions, I have hours of recordings meant nothing to them in one job. Having more than 20 pages of written notes on what happened did help the next job. I wonder if that's simply because they didn't want to take the time to go to sort through the recordings, and then it was easier to just read. Because I know for me personally, I can read a lot faster than I can sit through a video. So I wonder if that has anything to do with that. Mario, denial. How many times I never had proof and then I think I'm crazy, now I record. Aha. I got you. Okay, so GDPR is something that is new as of 2018. And basically what that states is that your privacy policy needs to be up to date, and basically the clients need to know their rights regarding your saving of information. So if you save information like these screenshots and client logs and transcriptions and things like that, you absolutely need a clause in your terms and conditions that states that if a client breaks a boundary or breaks one of your codes of ethics or laws or however you want to phrase it, that you will be saving a transcript and a recording of this and making a note of it. That's one reason why you need to have that your rights privacy clause. Another reason why is if you are accepting credit cards and you save credit cards on hand. Like I have some clients, I just have their credit card numbers. I prefer not to do that. I don't want to do that. These are just old clients that I've had. I don't do that with new clients, by the way, but just old clients I have that I would, when I used to have the reader, you know, you could type in credit cards and they would just trust me to do that, and that's okay. I don't do that for clients now because that's a big liability for me. However, if you store any type of information, if you store an address, if you store credit cards, if you store first and last names, on your website, if you have a membership site, or if people can sign up on your website as a user, if they can enroll in your CRM, which is like your newsletter, your customer retention management. I think that's CRM stands for. If you have them in your newsletter, then they have their first and last name and their email address. Basically what that says, and if you need help with GDPR, join the mentorship program, because honestly the GDPR training is worth the $400 it costs to even get in there, because there's like 5 hours of content, there's contracts, there's, you know, templates that you can use, my own templates that I've created that you can enter your own information in and be GDPR compliant and things like that. But if you are storing any type of information about a client, period, which it could be a problematic client or it could just be client names, emails, credit cards, any type of storing of personal data, you need to have some sort of clause to let them know that you do have that stored, and that if they want that erased, you can erase it at any time, unless you know, it's a problematic client, and if they ask for that to be erased, then you're probably going to send them a letter of termination. And or if they ask for their information to be erased and that information provides access to a course or a membership site or a program or something like that, then they lose access to that as well. Okay, so that has to be outlined. And that has to be in your newsletter. It has to be, you have to have your privacy policy in your newsletter on every single newsletter you send out. Unions, okay, we've already talked about that. Will this replay, Facebook, come on, Facebook, please cooperate with me. Also, the job where I took all the recordings, it was too traumatic for me to listen to. Oh, yeah, that's another thing too. So make sure you're writing physical notes on it. Thank you for bringing that up, by the way. Will this replay be in our workshop list for the Make-Terry? Yes, it will. Yes, it will. You guys will have this replay. Leonie, oh my goodness, I have so much work to do. I don't do any of this. It took me, it took me like 7 years to get to learn a lot of hard lessons, to get all of this stuff together. It's not like we don't have problems still, but at least you have a protocol. It's not like it really eliminates the whole deer in the headlights when you start having problems with people, with clients, and it's like you have this problem, and then you're like traumatized. You're like, oh my God, what do I do? I don't know what to do. At least this way, when you think about these things, these sort of negative situations that can arise, you have a protocol that you can follow, so you can keep a level head, and you can just stick to the facts, stick to the protocol, right? Makes it so much easier to not get emotionally involved in other people's stuff. Kimberly says, yeah, I thought the recordings would be taken more seriously, but no one was willing to take the time for them. Moral is, recording or no recording, keep notes, is cathartic in the moment, potentially re-traumatizing. Oh, yeah, thank you. That really helps a lot. I appreciate your perspective and your opinion on that and your advice, because I didn't really think about it that way, but that's absolutely true. Leonie says, yes, Sister Susan, 2019, look out, we're going to be ready. Yep, and that's why we're doing this. I want you to be prepared for 2019. I want you to prepare to start making $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 a month. I want you to be able to have that business and be that successful, but you need to learn how to protect yourself. Latanya says, I've learned so much today. My head is spinning. Great information, very helpful. Thank you so much for putting it all together. You are so welcome. That's why I'm here. So I go through all the BS and the hard lessons so that you hopefully won't, or that if you do, you'll at least know what to do. Latanya says, I literally just made my website private because I have none of this in my terms and conditions and realized I'm a sitting duck. Latanya, it's all in the mentorship program. Whatever you need, tag me. There's a terms and conditions template. There's a privacy policy template. There's the hold harmless. There's all of this in the mentorship program. So all we need to do is we just need to tag you. Okay. I pretty much covered everything I want to say. I'm going to open up this time now for questions. If anybody has any questions or comments. I also wanted to tell you guys that the enrollment for the Make Terror Your Business Mentorship Program is open. It's going to be open till Sunday night. It's $400 to get in. My goal is to get you off the hotline. So I'm going to teach you how to market on social media. I'm going to teach you about copywriting. I'm going to teach you about blogging. I'm going to teach you about how to set up your newsletters. I'm going to teach you how to be GDPR compliant. I'm going to get you set up with all of these contract templates that are necessary for a thriving business to survive and to protect itself. I'm going to teach you how to build sales pages. I'm going to teach you how to live stream. You get invited to at least 2 collabs per year, the 12 Days of Christmas and the Summer of Magic, plus any of the other private collabs that we have going on with our other members. Rachel does the Samhain Social. Susie is going to be working on, hopefully, fingers crossed, some sort of spring collab. There's also coaching opportunities, things like that. So you're just not going to find a business course. You're not going to find this level of support and this level of high-end information anywhere out there. I'm the only one doing this. I'm the only one doing this for psychics. That is literally college-level, high-end marketing that, $400 is really just, it's nothing compared to what my members are making. Most of my members, after about 3 months or so, they stop making $500 a month, and they start making $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. So $400, it sounds steep, and maybe you're going to have to figure out a way to get that money. Maybe you'll have to put it on credit. Maybe you'll have to budget. Maybe you'll have to work an extra weekend on the psychic hotlines. But it is open until Sunday night, and then I'm going to be closing it. I'm only going to be taking up to 10 people. We already have 3 people that have already claimed spots, so I only have 7 left. But if you are interested, let me know. If you have questions, inbox me. I'm more than happy to help you. I'm more than happy to answer questions, see if this is a right fit for you. The person that it's really a right fit for is someone who wants to be on video, someone who wants to eventually get into coaching or, mentoring, someone who wants to maybe eventually start their own course, getting to passive income, shift out of those one-on-one appointments, someone who maybe wants to start an online school or academy or wants to monetize their group. Or basically, it's for someone who really wants to do this as a full-time job, as a career, and really wants to break out of this whole thing where you're hiding behind an avatar, you're hiding behind a logo, you're hiding behind email readings. if you are scared to get on a phone with someone, or you're scared to get on video with someone, and you know that you're not going to be able to make the income that you want if you're stuck behind doing the hotlines or email readings or these kind of passive ways to make money, and you really want to start being seen as like a leader in the spirituality field, that's what I can help you with. The person that this is really going to suit is the person who is committed, who can follow through on their goals, is really good at following directions, is a DIY person, and who just really needs some level of group accountability, right? And I think that's the most valuable thing with the mentorship program, other than the information. The information is insanely valuable. I can't even put a price tag on it, even though I do, $400. I mean, it's still nowhere near what it's really worth, and what even I've paid for courses that are nowhere near, as good as this. But just the ongoing support, just getting to hang out with people that are like you and getting that group accountability every single week, that is really, truly valuable. Another thing I want to talk about too is, Susie says it's well worth it. This program changed my business, and Christina always overgives. Thank you. Susan says it's one hell of a lovely ride in the Make Terry Business course. I love every moment. Thank you. It's worth it. Just try it. It's worth it truly to anyone on the fence. Just do it. Mario, yes, you are. And that's what we just got you into. Jennifer, Mario, you are in. Yeah. Okay, one more thing I want to tell you guys. It's probably obvious because I changed the group photo and everything today, but we are going to be doing a 31-day spiritual business divination challenge, and it starts on January 1st. The prompts are going to be in the Facebook group. They're also going to be on Instagram. So however you want to follow that is fine with me. We also have a special tag that all the information is in the pin section of the group. I will be releasing more information on Instagram soon. But if you do participate, I would love for you to post your Instagram photos of your card pools. I would love for you to, share the insights that you get. But I'm going to ask you one question every single day for the whole month of January, and it relates to your business. And you can basically use whatever divination tool that you want. All right? So I will see you guys in the group.